Good evening, my viewers. This is George Ondek with the latest edition of Get On Deck with George Show. Tonight I'm very proud to have somebody different on. I'm going to have a lawyer on, Rich Abbate. How you doing,
Hi,
Rich?
George. How are you today?
I've had bankers on, I've had politicians on, but I haven't had a lawyer on before who wants to help the people. We're not promoting your practice or anything, but I'm going to go through a couple of areas of the law tonight where you may be of helpful to my audience. But before I do that, I want people to get to know you better.
Sure.
Mr. Abbate, where do you live?
I live in Yorktown Heights, New York, not far from here.
How long have you lived there?
15 years I've been
15
there.
years.
Or 13 years.
And are you married?
I am married for 21 years.
21 years. And how long have you been practicing law?
I've been practicing law for 22 years.
How come lawyers and doctors practice, but in every other field? Just being a little funny here. Do you have family?
I do. I have 3 boys, ages 19, 17, and 15.
Are they notable for anything?
All 3 boys are Eagle Scouts.
Eagle Scouts?
Yes, Troop 1674
Just
in Yorktown Heights.
Did they
My youngest son is going to get his Eagle Scout award this Sunday. Or next Sunday, I'm sorry.
And today is August 31st that we're taping.
Yeah.
He's going to get in.
September 12th.
And I hear they do a lot of community service.
Yes.
I read about in one of the local newspapers, one of them or all 3 were honored for something with the American Legion.
My youngest son, his Eagle Scout project was painting the interior hall of the American Legion Hall in Yorktown Heights.
It's a very honorable thing to do.
Sure.
Rich, what got you interested in law and serving the people as a lawyer?
I guess I became interested in law sometime after college. My undergraduate degree was actually in chemistry. I'd planned on being a scientist.
Wow.
But at some point after I graduated college, I decided that law school would be a great general education and it'd be an opportunity to practice law and to help people by doing that.
A lot of seniors are interested in law and a lot of homeowners. I'm hearing a lot of things on broadcast TV about reverse mortgages, affordable mortgages, FHA, people who are getting in problems because of mortgage debt. Is there anything are you an expert or do you do anything in that field?
Yes, part of my practice is helping people who are behind on their mortgage payments. So a typical client who shows up in my office may be 6 months or a year behind on their mortgage. They may be in foreclosure. I help them out with getting the mortgage reset, getting the foreclosure dismissed, and getting them an affordable payment. There's some programs out there. The most common one people have heard of is HAMP, which is Housing Affordable Modification Program. That's a government program in where they attempt to get the mortgage payment for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance to get that to be no more than 31% of the gross salary of the members of the household.
So a person shouldn't be paying more than 31% of gross salary according to federal guidelines, are you saying?
According to the HAMP program, so they attempt to get that payment lower the banks. So the first thing they do is they attempt to lower the interest rate, no lower than 2%. If that doesn't work, then they'll stretch the payments out up to 40 years. If that still doesn't work, then depending on the program or when the loan was done, there may be some loan forgiveness or putting some amounts on the loan on the back end. So there may be a balloon payment 40 years from now.
Rich, what happened with our banking system a few years ago that they overextended many people with mortgages, practically giving them away with practically nothing down?
Yeah, so in the 2004, 2005, there was a lot of loans closed where they called them no-doc loans. So somebody would show up and just say, hey, I make X number of dollars a month, I have this much money in the bank, and they run their credit and they wouldn't verify how much money they would make or how much credit they would have, and they would get these huge loans, sometimes with only 2%, only with 3% down or 2% down.
Wow.
And I saw a lot of financing go on like that.
And
so,
you can help people with that.
Yeah, so now they are attempting to get the loan payment a little bit lower and make it affordable so they can stay in their homes.
We're hearing a lot on national TV about reverse mortgages for a senior to be able to stay in his home. You being a lawyer and versed in mortgage, is that, is that a good idea, or are there some caveats to that?
Yeah, so one of the things I do is I close reverse mortgages for some lenders. You have to be at least 62 years old, and then you have to have enough equity in your house to cover the amount of the loan. So, for example, they'll give you up to roughly, I think, about 60% of the value of your house. There's no real downside to it, except you're spending your kids' inheritance.
How about the fees? Are there fees involved in
Yeah,
that?
there's fees involved. So there's fees to the bank. There's insurance, like a mortgage insurance fee that's paid because the loan is federally guaranteed by HUD, Housing Urban Development. So, and the reason the banks do it is because it is guaranteed. Because what happens is, once you take this loan, the interest builds every month. There's no payments required. The only thing you're required to do as the homeowner is to pay your insurance and taxes. But this loan builds in its size every month, right? And if you live another 30 years or 40 years and the value of the house goes down, then the bank is insured by the federal government for the difference.
Rich, I'm a little confused. Let's say the person who took this out dies after 5 years. What happens? Who determines the value of the house?
Yeah, so once the person, there's only two conditions that the loan, you have to pay back the loan. One is it's no longer your primary residence, and generally the bank says you have to live there at least 6 months out of the year. And the other condition is you pass away, you're not alive anymore. At that point, the bank, the loan's due within 90 days. So the family is either forced to refinance it or sell it. Most families choose to sell it. Now, it's hard to get a house sold in 90 days, so the banks generally work with you. As long as it's listed and you're making an attempt to sell it, they'll go ahead and allow you to do that. If it sells for some amount less than is owed, then the federal government insures the bank for the difference.
So what I'm understanding about this, that if it was a person who didn't have any other equity and was living on a very tight budget, it could be a godsend.
It could be. It keeps people in their homes who otherwise may not be able to afford it.
But then again, it isn't too good for the heirs.
Yeah, the downside is the heirs. You're spending your inheritance.
You're spending the inheritance rather than leaving it to your grandchildren or children or whatever.
Right, but my thought is it's your house. You worked for it. You paid for it. Why can't you use that asset to go ahead and support yourself when you get older?
With the cost of living as high as it is in Westchester, I guess a lot of people have to resort to doing a reverse mortgage.
Right, but I've seen people use it not because of the cost of living. I did a reverse mortgage about a year ago. The house was paid for in total, so they pulled that money out, and then the couple was actually using it to buy another house in Florida. And they could spend so they can spend the winter in Florida. Mm-hmm. So that was a great use for it too. And the plus side is there's no credit or income necessary for it. You just have to be 62 years of age.
Do you know anything about living wills, and is it a good idea for a person to take out a living will?
You're probably thinking of with a living will. It's a document that says if I'm not able to make my own decisions and I'm in a vegetative state, right, I want no extreme measures taken to keep me alive. That's an individual decision of somebody. Some people would say, hey, I want every measure taken.
Are there certain things that a senior, and I know a lot of seniors are watching my show, should do with a lawyer prior to their health going downhill?
Yeah, so one of the things they should do is at least sit with a lawyer, talk to him about putting a will together. If you have no will and you pass away, New York State has something called the laws of intestate. They'll decide how your property is distributed after your demise. But the other thing you should also do is have a power of attorney and have a healthcare proxy. And those items are good to have in case you're unable to make decisions for yourself. And the power of attorney, they say durable power of attorney. It doesn't expire. So once you have it, you have it. So as long as you have a healthcare proxy and a durable power of attorney, if you were to get sick and unable to make decisions, then the family members would be able to make those decisions for you. If you didn't have those two items and you got sick and couldn't make decisions on your own anymore, then you'd have to go to the court and have a guardian appointed on your behalf to make those decisions.
Now,
But you could avoid that by having those two
Rich,
items.
if any of my viewers who are watching this, let's say they're senior citizens, can they call you at the numbers that we put up at the
Absolutely.
end?
They can give me a
you'll
call.
give
I'm
them
happy to
some
talk to
advice
them.
and-
Give them, right, we're able to
Okay.
talk.
What other areas of the law are you versed in that I don't know about, or that you can tell my audience
Yeah.
that would help the audience? You
Right.
know?
Along with the foreclosures, I deal with a lot of foreclosure work. Hand in hand goes with that is I do bankruptcies, personal bankruptcies, either Chapter 7s or Chapter 13s. And generally when a person comes to me with foreclosure problems, they usually have other financial problems. They've run up their credit cards for whatever reason, a lot of times through job loss, and then people live off the credit cards until the credit cards run out, and then they stop paying their mortgage. That's a typical scenario. So a person like that, there's a lot you can do with them in terms of bankruptcy. You can maybe do a Chapter 7 and discharge all their debt, or they say discharge the dischargeable debt. There's certain items that are not dischargeable, but most things are, like credit card debt, medical debt, personal loans. It's all dischargeable, meaning you no longer owe it. It's discharged. The bank or the creditor, people you owe it to, can't collect it from you. And with that, with the foreclosure, the bankruptcy courts also have what's called the loss mitigation process. And they allow you to go through a loan modification under bankruptcy court supervision. So there's been a lot of people I've been able
What
to
is
help.
loan modification? Most of my audience doesn't
Yeah,
know what
loan
that
modification is what we talked about earlier, the HAMP program, Housing Affordable Modification Program. What it does is the bank looks to get you an affordable payment for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And if you're in a condominium, they actually include your common charges
And
in that number.
I've heard people under this interest rate environment we're in now can get like a 2 or 3 or 4% interest rate on that loan rather than the market rate, which
Right.
could
So
be tremendous.
if you're able to get a
depending on income, I think
right,
it was.
if you're able to get a modification, right, they'll put the rate down as low as 2%. So not
Wow.
everybody gets that, but depending on the
Yeah.
amount of income you're making, you can get a rate
And
as low as 2%.
depending on the amount under or over that 31% you were
Well,
talking about
they'll
before.
drive the interest rate down as low as 2% in order to get you in that 31% window. Right.
The first time you tried a case, how was it like to go before the judge there?
First time I tried a case was actually out in it was in district court in Hempstead.
In
New
Hempstead,
York.
Long Island?
Yeah, it was a property damage claim. It was a bookstore where there had been a water leak, and I worked for an insurance company at the time, and the insurance company had insured the bookstore for the water leak, and they were suing the tenant above for the difference. So it was very nerve-wracking, but I got it done. That was over 20 years ago. The case came up, and it wasn't a very big value case. It was maybe $15,000. And I saw it, and I ran and I asked my boss, let me go try it, because I figured, hey, the worst I could do is lose $15,000. It was a big insurance company. But I wound up winning that case.
How'd you decide to take the LSAT and go to law school? You said you were interested in chemicals before. Or
Yeah, had been a chemistry major, and I graduated college, and I kind of bounced around, and I actually wound up, believe it or not, I was a milkman for Delwood.
Get out of here!
And I drove a truck.
You delivered
I
milk?
delivered milk
You've come a long way,
to
baby.
supermarkets and bodegas.
Did you deliver
and
any
everything
to
else.
30 Clinton Street in Yonkers?
No.
I can remember as a young boy getting the milkman delivered from Delwood, and there
Yeah.
would be cream at the top.
Yeah. So I did that for about 2 years, and I decided, hey, it's an okay job. The pay was okay, but I wanted to do something more in my life. So I took the LSAT, and I was in law school 6 months later.
Rich, you didn't know this about me, but I took the LSAT.
Oh, no, I didn't know that,
and
George.
I could have went to law school, but I decided after serving in Vietnam and going to college 4 years, and my wife working, and I working a midnight shift,
Yep.
it was time to go to work.
Yep.
And I didn't pursue it any further, but it's an honorable position, a law, and I did pretty good on the LSAT.
Good.
And I
Good.
could have been an officer in the service too. When I was drafted, they give you a battery of tests, and I could have went to West Point, but I didn't choose to be a career soldier.
Right.
But I'm thankful for the GI Bill, the disabled GI Bill. It enabled me to go to college 4 years. And I graduated Westchester and Pace University. What
Good.
schools did you graduate
For
from?
undergraduate, I went to New York University, and for law school, I went to Pace University School
Very
of
good
Law.
school.
Yes,
yeah.
thanks,
In the
George.
city?
No,
That's-
Pace School of Law is in White Plains.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting. So you've been practicing for 22 years, did you say?
22 years I've been admitted.
And you've been married 21 years?
Yes.
What do you think of Yorktown? You live in Yorktown. Do you have a stake in Yorktown?
Yes, I
And
do,
do you
George. It's
think
been-
you'll stay there for a while?
I think I will stay there a very long time. It's been a great place to raise my kids. When I showed up 13 years ago, my kids were 2, 4, and 6. And the school system's been great, and they've made nice friends, and I've made good friends
And it's a good
nice
town,
people.
Yorktown. It's a green town,
Yeah,
you know?
it's a wonderful town.
Unlike the big cities like Yonkers or New Rochelle or New York City.
Lots of trees.
It's a green tree town.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Let's see. Go ahead. Tell me more about your law career, Richie, or Mr. Abbate.
When I first graduated law school, I actually started my career at a personal injury firm down in the city. It was right by 220. It was right in 225 Broadway. It was all the way down in Lower Manhattan, and they did personal injury cases.
You did.
And that's how I got started doing personal injury cases.
I just found out something with personal injury, and you're in a lot of municipal buildings, court buildings.
Yes.
Is it true that if a person falls and gets hurt in a municipal building, they only have a certain amount of months or days to file, or they can't?
That is true. So if
How
you were to
come-
get injured in a municipal building or city-owned building or on a sidewalk, you have 90 days to file what's called a notice of claim. If you don't file that notice of claim, you're barred from bringing a lawsuit.
Wow.
The notice of claim sets out a number of items: who you are, what your claims are, where the accident took place, how it took place. After that, the municipality is allowed to conduct what they call a 50H hearing, and it's after the section of the law, the municipality law, 50H. And they get an opportunity under oath, so there's a court reporter there to question you how the accident happened and what your injuries are. After that, you only have 1 year to sue.
I never knew that. I know somebody
Where-
recently who fell in a municipal building and didn't get in time to a lawyer by that 90 days and
And that's
lost
it.
out.
Then you're forever barred.
That
It's a
seems
statute.
like better rights for a municipality
It does,
than it
but-
does for a private
Yeah,
company.
it works out better for the state. And they're the ones that write the law.
Well,
you
I
have
guess-
to figure out why.
Yeah. So there's, so accident law. Have you ever practiced accident law? or-
Yeah, I did for the first 7 or 8 years. I was at a law school. That's all I did. I worked for the personal injury firm, a plaintiff's firm, and then I moved to an insurance carrier, in-house counsel, and that's where I did property. That's where I did my first trial, the property damage claim. We also defended against auto accidents, trip and falls, scaffolding law, all that. And from there, I moved to a litigation firm in the city, which they call an insurance defense firm. All the clients were insurance companies, and we defended their insureds against accidents.
What do you
So,
think of medical malpractice insurance? I hear doctors seem to be against that a bit.
It's
It
expensive. Right.
raises their costs.
It raises their costs. I've never practiced medical malpractice on either side. But there's some big verdicts that come in. So the insurance companies who insure the doctors make them pay big premiums. But I have no objections to these personal injury lawyers or medical malpractice lawyers going ahead and making these claims. I mean, if the doctor committed negligence, he should be responsible.
Or a person in the operating room if they created negligence, or a
Right.
hospital.
Right.
Person has a right to sue then.
Correct. So if a person has committed negligence and you have damages before that, you should be reimbursed for those.
But Rich, I have you on my show tonight, but I think I've got big breaking news on the show tonight. I've heard that you've decided to run for some office in Yorktown.
Yes, George. I'm running for Yorktown Town Justice.
Yorktown Town Justice.
Correct. So I'm running
That's
for that.
what-
I'm on the ballot this November.
Uh-huh.
And
And what made you decide to become a judge now? You've been before the judges, now you'll be the judge if you were to win this.
Well, I'm really invested in the town of Yorktown, right? I'm committed to it. My kids are getting older now. My youngest is 15, and I've been involved with Scouts for the past, Cub Scouts and then Scouts for the whole time I'm in Yorktown, so the last 13 years. But now that my youngest is kind of getting through the Scout program, I have more time to devote to the community in other ways. And I thought being town justice would be a great way to make a difference. I think I have the ability, the integrity, I think I have the correct temperance to make good decisions, to listen to both sides of a case and make a good decision based on what I
and
hear.
you can be fair.
And I'm fair and impartial.
Are you fair and impartial?
I am fair and
hear
impartial.
That's very important.
It is.
So I guess you're out campaigning already.
I am.
But I understand running for judge, you're really limited with the amount of campaigning. You can just go and say hello to people and
right.
And no negative campaigning.
No
is
negative
involved.
campaigning. I'm
that
not
is
interested
very
in
good.
doing that.
That wouldn't
anyway.
be bad for all politicians.
That would be a good rule for all politicians.
Just to run strictly on the law or on the facts or on,
right.
What positive.
Yeah.
So what do you feel positive you can do for the community, being the one of the town justices in Yorktown?
I think just sitting on the bench and being fair and impartial and being able to hear both sides of a case, I think it would be an asset to the community. It would allow me to give back.
And Richie, I'm fair and honest on my show. One thing I'm going to say right now, I am related to you through marriage. My wife's cousin's daughter, Vicky, is your wife. And
yes.
So I would not put you on the air under false pretenses, and I leave this open to any opponent of yours or anyone who wants to be on my show, because I feel I'm fair and balanced. And I've had Democrats on, I've had Republicans, I've had independents, and I believe in giving people an equal chance and to do good for their communities.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that.
Okay, but so it's onward and upward with your judges race.
Yes.
So
I'm out there every day campaigning, introducing myself to people, asking for their vote, and I've been getting good support out there. I've been getting a lot of positive people.
How does your family feel about that?
They're behind me 100%.
That's good.
They're my campaign
I
staff.
understand your wife is in an honorable position. She's a public school teacher.
My wife is a special ed teacher. She teaches in the Bronx.
Oh, wow. Special ed, that makes it very special.
Yes.
How does she enjoy teaching?
I think she likes the job.
And
I think
how
she
long
loves
has she
going to
been-
work.
How long has
She's
she
been teaching for 10 years.
And I know you have a big stake in Yorktown. Didn't you, in the past, own a condo in town? And now you're a homeowner.
I am a homeowner in Yorktown, yeah.
And it looks like you're going to be there for the rest of your life.
I
now.
am. I anticipate that.
Do you like the saying, Yorktown cares, or Yorktown, your kind of town?
Yeah, I like that saying.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting pretty near the close of the show. Do you want to say anything to the Yorktown audience and my vast audience throughout Westchester County about your law practice, whether people can call you, and not to promote your law practice, but would you be willing to help them if they have a problem?
Absolutely.
Especially a senior on a fixed income.
If you're a senior on a fixed income and you have some questions, please give me a call. I'm more than happy to speak to you. If you have a foreclosure problem or you have some debt problems, give me a call. I'm happy to talk to you. We'll make an appointment and get you in my office and we'll talk.
Okay. We've gone about, I'd say about 28 minutes into the show. At the end of the show, we will put up your phone number and what is your web address? I'm not too up on web things.
Yeah. www.abadelaw.com.
And is there a number you want people to reach you on?
914-358-9222. Or you can email me at rabblaw@aol.com.
Got a good question for you. Very shortly in Yorktown, they'll be having the first annual Italian feast.
Yes.
I know you're of Italian heritage,
I am.
Will you be attending that and having some Zeppolis? And
Maybe.
some,
Of course, something's going on. I'm going to
I
go
hear-
down. I'm going to look around.
I hear politicians like to do that. I think
Yep.
judge candidates would like to do that
Sure.
too.
I'm going to go down and look. Check it out.
Have you ever cooked any lasagna or?
I have cooked lasagna. I love to cook.
Zeppolis.
Never Zeppelis, but I
can
do cook
remember
lasagna.
in my old home city at the age of 5 going to Park Hill Avenue and my dad and mom introducing me to pizza pie, Zeppolis, and lasagna at the fine restaurants there. But Rich Abbate, I wish you good luck. Anything now in closing? We're down to 2 minutes left in the show. Anything you want to tell the people of Yorktown?
Yeah, if they would just consider me to be Yorktown Justice, I'd appreciate that. Come out November 3rd and vote. Regardless how you're going to vote, it's important you come out and vote.
That's November 3rd?
November 3rd. Exercise your right to vote. And then you can check out my campaign at www.abateforjustice.com. And that's 4FOR.
So this has been a combination. We had you on speaking of the law tonight and how to help the people. And we made a news item by your running for justice in Yorktown. Good luck.
Thank you so much,
Good
George,
luck,
for having me. I
Mr.
appreciate
Abbate.
it.
It was my pleasure, and my audience. This has been the George Ondek Show. Get on deck with George and with Rich Abbate. And till next month, see you, and may you stay within the law. How's that, Rich?
Thanks, George.
Thank you.